What is the most important things we need every day? The most basic will be food, water, and shelter. But we often take it for granted that food security is such an important aspect of our lives. Throughout the history, we have seen agriculture have played role in rise and falls of civilization. Countries survive depends on how these essentials are managed. Food security for a country is important to make sure that the country is stable for the economy and also for the citizens. To make sure that the country have very stable food security, a good plan to secure the condition is required. This includes having well-managed agricultural land, efficient technology, and importantly, have enough workforce. In Malaysia, we remain vulnerable to the food security in the future due to relying on imports for maintaining food supply, especially rice. In 2020, Malaysia imported about 620 million US dollars worth of rice, becoming the ninth largest importer of rice in the world. At the same year, rice was one of the most important products in Malaysia. It's just one example how vulnerable Malaysia in terms of food security, because we are importing so much of these essentials. We need to see more and more news lately, stories of shortage of farm products such as chicken, meat, and fish. Price is going up like nobody's business. Many people struggle to get the goods for daily lives. But in the same time, we can see many of our agricultural land remains idle. Our youths are being jobless. And why this is happening? Such an irony that Malaysia is a resource-rich country. We are not in a desert. We have very fertile land, but yet we are facing food shortage. It is also an irony where majority of our rural communities are farmers. They live off the land, and yet they're very poor. Another irony, youths in our rural areas are migrating from the village, the kampungs, to big cities, and only to find them have nothing to eat. This is such an irony because despite having so much assistance to the farmers by the government, we cannot have enough food on our table and still import a lot of foodstuff, feedstocks, and so on, especially from overseas. Yeah, for example, rice, we import 70% of our rice from other countries, and yet we can see abandoned rice fields everywhere. Why is this happening? Is it because our youths are no longer interested in farming, or they don't know the knowledge, they don't have the knowledge, or maybe farming is just not an interesting career? I grew up in the rice field as a farmer. I was raised on the rice field, play among buffaloes, but these days our youths have lost the ability to do farming due to maybe our education system. When I was a boy and in my youth, I was taught to work from the soil, and the soil will feed us. And that's how the system works. Unfortunately, all of these skills, knowledge are no longer passed to our younger generation. They go to boarding schools, then learn academic and maybe writing, reading, and counting, but they can back only knowing those kind of skills, but they are not equipped, or they don't have the opportunity to know about farming and all those other technologies. One generation later, we have lost all that skills. Now, even my own son, I don't even know how to hold the chankul properly. I think this is time for us to go back to basics and make farming great again. How can we do that? First, I think we need to provide our youths a place to learn, an alternative, maybe an alternative learning centers. So these alternative learning centers can provide the opportunity for them to learn about farming, and also a platform for youths to know how to be a good farmer. To be a farmer, you need to also to be you need to be also to be an entrepreneur, making small business from the product and processing your product, so that you can also gain economic values on farming. So this is important. So I think it's already time for us to move towards supporting alternative learning centers like the Guasco Position College, which we have founded a few years ago to provide this for our youths. And it's also important that we have to continuously feed the needs for workforce in the farming sector. So I think this is the time for us to move and try to come together, provide this sort of alternative learning center for our youths, so that all this idle land, maybe unproductive land, can be turned into something that is important to address our food security. So for me, it's time for us to work together and promote alternative learning center, ensure that there's enough funding to sustain these alternative learning centers, and also to have policy support in order for us to in order for this alternative learning center to be recognized and also to thrive. So for us, let's act together and make this let's make farming great again for the good of the country, to address our food security issues.